this time they rolled their sleeves up, they fought, and the atmosphere, I've got to say, that massively helped them. Yeah, and that was Anfield at its kind of belligerent best.
You can sense the atmosphere, you can sense the getting behind, and you can hear the songs, you can hear, like, all too often this season it's just been a bit flat. I think
Ekitike was just absolutely sensational.
I think them Newcastle fans will have been sick on the weekend watching him, thinking, look what we could have won.
I just think he's got everything you want in a centre forward. That second goal was, it was pure Torres, wasn't it? You can just see what it means to him to play for Liverpool.
We still win 2 cup competitions. There's so much to play for this season.
If anything, God forbid, was to happen to Van Dijk,
yeah,
we're down to the bare bones. We're talking the likes of Endo or Gravenberg having to play centre half.
Hello and welcome to Inside Liverpool. We are on TalkSport's YouTube channel and also on your smart TVs, the show where, of course, we dive deep into all things Liverpool Football Club. And this show, delighted to say, is sponsored by BetMGM. You could download the app or visit betmgm.co.uk. Be gamble aware, or of course, please gamble responsibly. I am your host, Sam Ellard, and alongside me, back from America, the former British super middleweight champion, Paul Smith. And delighted to say that joining us once again is James Pearce from The Athletic. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me. Hey, James.
Good to see you guys, yeah. All good with me. Hope you're both well.
Good, very good, thank you. I'm sure you'll go into more detail, Paul, on Talk Boxing, but briefly, good time in America? Looked like you were living your best life?
Yeah, I was actually there working. It did look that way, but I think when you're, when in Rome, as they say, if you're in New York, there's no point in sitting in a hotel. Certainly not for me. My brothers take the mickey out of me and call me Dora the Explorer, but whenever I am, I go and see wherever I am in the local place. And the show was very decent. My fight was in a very good fight, and the main event was a really, really good technical fight. So good trip. Got back yesterday morning and stayed down here.
Good.
Back to work.
You're a grafter, aren't you? Grafter. The one weekend you go away, by the way, and don't go to Anfield. We play well and pick up a good 3 points and a good performance. We'll talk about the game briefly, but we are recording this the morning after transfer deadline day, so I guess only one place to start, and that is that Liverpool have confirmed a £60 million deal for Jeremy Jacquet with the centre-back to join in the summer. He completed his medical yesterday on deadline day. Will move to Anfield on July the 1st. Liverpool have agreed to pay a fixed fee of £55 million plus a potential £5 million in performance-related add-ons. James, just tell us a little bit about this deal and how it all kind of came together over the last couple of days.
Yeah, things moved really fast with the Jeremy Jacquet deal over the weekend. Liverpool have long since monitored his progress. He caught their eye initially. He was part of the France team that reached the final of the under-19s Euros in 2024 in Northern Ireland. He was subsequently named in the team of the tournament. He then had a decent loan spell that when he was at Rennes that kind of propelled him into the senior setup there on his return, and he's just gone from strength to strength. France under-21s international. All the data that Liverpool obviously rely heavily on when it comes to recruitment pointed out that he was fast being regarded as one of the most gifted young centre-backs in European football, and especially with the fact that Liverpool knew that Chelsea were in discussions. It was kind of now or never, really. So at the weekend, sporting director Richard Hughes stepped up those discussions, managed to do the deal with Rennes. I think it was pretty non-negotiable in terms of Liverpool would have loved to have got him now, but that just wasn't an option. Rennes wanted him for the rest of the season. They were only prepared to do a deal now for him to join another club in the summer. And Liverpool managed to beat Chelsea to his signature because of the pathway they set out to him, because they see him coming in and playing a big part. Essentially, probably initially next season competing for a place alongside Van Dijk, and then ultimately, hopefully, his successor as the leader of that back line.
Just seen some bits on social media over the last 24 hours. Julien Laurent, French football expert, speaking about Jacquet. He says, I can't stress enough what a superb signing he'll be for Liverpool. A special talent, has everything to become one of the best defenders in the world. Matt Spiro, Paul, another French football expert, says an extremely athletic centre-back, fast, powerful, defends aggressively, tailor-made for the Premier League, isn't experienced at the highest level, but if he stays injury-free, he has everything required to be a superb Premier League centre-half. And I've watched all the compilations possible I could find on YouTube over the last 12 hours, and I'm sold. I'm absolutely buzzing, Paul.
I really hope it's right, and I think nowadays, obviously, the technical analysis and the data that these teams and the teams within the clubs have also is vital and paramount and good. But I remember getting really worked up over Alberto Aquilani, as we said earlier off air.
That's a throwback, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd seen a lot of YouTube clips of him, and I saw all his highlights, and I thought, this player's going to be something else. And then he came, and obviously it didn't work. But I think nowadays the analysis is a lot better and a lot more advanced. And if quotes like that are being said, as you've just said there, arguably the best centre-back of his generation, it's a massive statement to make. If that was in boxing, we said that, I can only speak for my sport, but from football, that is a huge statement. But listen, I wish we could get him now.
Yeah. James, he's only mentioned Aquilani, by the way, because in the green room he was showing us pictures with Gerrard, Torres, Carragher, and Alberto Aquilani appeared in one of them, didn't he? And we thought, that's a throw.
That's two today.
Hey, by the way, he was bigging you up as well earlier on, that you guys at the Emirates earlier this year had a little chat, didn't you?
We did.
James is my go-to man. I see something on Twitter being said, and I don't message him often, but I would ask him. Like, he's the only fella I would feel comfortable and ask him. He's the man in the know.
I'm in that position now, but this is only the second time that I've spoke to him. I need to work out how many more times I have to do a show with him that I feel comfortable to then message him about something on social media.
Oh, he's never given me any inside info.
No, not inside. Just dot the I's, cross the T's.
I watch his face when I'm speaking to him. If anyone knows, he knows. He's the man. When you said you had him on the show while I was gone, I was a little bit worried about my job, to be fair.
You can just sit there and enjoy the show today if you like. But if you do look at some of the business over the last 18 months, Leone 19, Jacquet 20, Kerkez 22, Wirtz 22, Ekitike 23, Frimpong 25, even sort of Isak at 26. Sort of the rebuild, James, is setting us up for a bright future, isn't it? Well, hopefully anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that is all part of the strategy. Has been to bring down the average age of the team and to build for the long term. And I think it helps that Liverpool is such an attractive destination for young players. I think off the back of winning the Premier League last season, and everything that came with that. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better advert, could you, in terms of trying to sell Liverpool to players out there. So yeah, it's exciting, and I think also when you buy young like that, transition is inevitable. This season has been far from ideal, but I think we can all see you look at the way that Wirtz and Ekitike are combining now, and as you said, they 22 and 23 years of age. These are players with their best years way ahead of them. So with Jacquet and Leone, the hope is that 3-4 years down the line, certainly probably before then, those two will be a defensive double act for Liverpool that will serve them for many seasons. Yeah,
and James, obviously you've covered Liverpool for many years. You mentioned they're signing young players for the future, obviously good players as well. Just talk to us a bit more broadly about the change of transfer strategy from Liverpool over the last kind of 6 months in particular. I mean, it's kind of the first time, certainly my lifetime anyway, that I can remember the club basically just being in a position where it's like, just go and sign the best players available at sort of whatever cost. I mean, is it maybe not as simple as that, but that's kind of been the approach over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I think what hasn't changed is the business model in terms of it's a self-sustaining business model, isn't it? I think people look at, and especially in the media, we jump on the fact that they spent £450 million last summer, if you include all the potential performance-related add-ons. But of course, what sometimes gets overlooked is they generated £260 million from sales. So yeah, that's still a significant net spend. But of course, then you have to factor in they didn't spend hardly anything in the previous year because they only brought in Chiesa. They actually made a profit on their dealings when you look at the players that that left around that time. And I think it's just a mark of where Liverpool are at now as a club, because people said that to me last summer. Is the strategy suddenly gone out the window now that we're seeing 116 million pound deal for Wirtz, 125 million pound for Isak? Unheard of for Liverpool to break their transfer record twice in the space of a few months. But you also have to remember, look at the revenues. You have to, that Deloitte Money League table came out recently in terms of, Liverpool are now really starting to fulfill their potential off the pitch, and the owners talk about it being a virtuous cycle where, of course, success on the pitch feeds success off the pitch. You make more money commercially, that then feeds back into it. So we're seeing the results of that, really, of like Liverpool, not just what they've done on the pitch, but off it, now being able to mean they can compete at the top end of the transfer market.
There's an interesting piece on the mini sort of documentary interview today with Slot, Richard Hughes, Higomasol, and they mention that like the cycle, the commercial element and the commercial success is key to the on-field success, because obviously, or on the pitch success, because the better you do, and obviously commercially, the more money you're going to have to obviously input into buying players and buying things. That being said, though, I did not think we'd be going back in for anyone in this window, having spent obviously if it's with the add-ons, 450 million in the summer window. I didn't expect us to sign anyone. So even though it is for the summer, we've still done business in this window, which obviously the people at the club know a hell of a lot more than us as fans, and obviously that must be a necessity, having to buy in now rather than wait for the summer.
Yeah, but then do you know, James, if there was some talk about possibly Gertrude coming in January, who is on loan at Sunderland from Leipzig. Obviously, Jacquet, we know, just discussed it, is coming in the summer. Do you know if there was anything in that, him possibly coming in this month, or Liverpool just happy to sort of keep it as it is at the moment in terms of defence and numbers?
No, they did look at a number of potential kind of stopgaps, because what they didn't want to do, and they were never going to do, was just buy a body, just get pay 10-15 million pounds for a defender who might do half a job between now and the end of the season, and then you're kind of like thinking, well, what do we do with him come the summer? That's not how Liverpool do business. But yeah, they did look at short-term options. Gertrude was certainly the most likely one. There was a time on probably Sunday morning when, from the people I spoke to, there was a feeling that may well have happened, because Gertrude himself wanted it to happen. Sunderland were open to the idea of cancelling his loan, that they had the agreement in place with Leipzig. Leipzig were open to then loaning him to Liverpool for the rest of the season. And of course, Slot knows him very, very well from their time together at Feyenoord, and Slot really admires his versatility, because he could have done a job for Liverpool at right back, centre back, even holding midfield if needs be. But in the end, it just was too complex, because Sunderland made it clear they needed to get a replacement in. And I think by kind of late afternoon Sunday, it was pretty obvious that Sunderland were up against it and wouldn't be able to get who they wanted in to be able to sanction the termination of Gertrude's loan. So that was effectively that. So I don't sense, I think there's a lot of kind of unease amongst the fan base, the fact they didn't bring in someone immediately, and I share that to a degree. Although, yeah, positive the weekend was getting Konate back. Frimpong's only out for a couple of weeks. Joe Gomez should be available for the Man City game on Sunday. So it just feels like a bit of a gamble to me that they are thin back there, and they really need some good fortune in terms of keeping people fit now.
Just before we chat about the game on Saturday, James, do you know if there was any discussions between Villa and Liverpool with Harvey Elliott and possibly him coming back to Liverpool, or possibly there being any sort of change to the kind of clause in his contract where if he plays a couple of more times for Aston Villa, there's an obligation for him to be bought? Was there any change in that or discussions in that?
No late discussions. Was what I was told on Monday afternoon, that there was no expectation on either side that the situation would change, which, I really feel for Harvey Elliott, because, you speak to people at Villa and they've only got positive things to say about him in terms of his attitude and application in training every day. It's just really unfortunate that for whatever reason, Emery doesn't seem to fancy him, doesn't want Villa to have to pay the £35 million that's written into the agreement if he plays 10 or more appearances for Villa this season. So he's stuck in limbo, and it's I would have loved to have seen him back at Liverpool for the second half of the season, but Liverpool's stance throughout January was, we don't have a recall option, it's not in our hands.
Okay.
Villa would have had to have paid a financial penalty to send him back, and they didn't want to do that. So it was almost a case of, well, is one of the clubs going to blink? Are Liverpool going to, well, forget about the money, we'll just have him back? Are Villa going to, just pay the money and send him back? In the end, neither of those things happened, and Harvey Elliott's still at Villa till the end of the season. But, the likelihood is he probably plays very little football between now and May.
I know we touched on it, Paul, on this show before, but I mean, the whole situation I still find bizarre. I mean, certainly from an Aston Villa point of view, I would say, certainly since Unai Emery has come to the football club, I think their recruitment's been pretty good. They don't spend big money on players, but it's shrewd signings. So the fact that James says there, that, and I've read it as well, and other journalists close to Villa, that Unai Emery just doesn't fancy Harvey Elliott. I find it absolutely mad that they brought him in the first place with that obligation clause in the contract, and the manager doesn't fancy him. Just it's strange. I feel sorry for Harvey Elliott.
This is the thing, what I'm saying, though, there's obviously a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't see. We as fans, we as the public, we as Sky Sports, Talk Sports, all kinds of viewers, we're watching the news shows and we're watching the interviews, what's being said, and we're trying to read between the lines and peek behind the curtain, so to speak, but we don't actually know what goes on at these clubs. But Harvey Elliott, I've never heard anyone say a bad word about him inside or outside the football. He's a grafter. He works really hard. He's got a lot of talent. He's probably a good person to have around the club, and it's not for me or the average fella on the street to feel sorry for someone who's probably on 50 grand a week, but you do tend to feel sorry for someone like that in this position, in this situation, because it's not him that's chosen that or is doing that, and he's in limbo at the moment, isn't he? And it's one of them tough things. But listen, stranger things have happened. Villa could have a few injuries here and need them. And look at us, just have one look at us. The players we need at the moment, as James has just said there, if anything, God forbid, was to happen to Van Dijk, we're down to the bare bones. We're talking the likes of Endo or Gravenberg having to play centre half, and it's tough at the moment for us as well.
I mean, with Villa, got Tielemans and Kamara going to miss a lot of the rest of the season. John McGinn's out for the next 6 weeks. They're in the Europa League, aren't they? They're obviously going for the title / trying to finish in the top 5 and in the Cup. So they might Unai might have a choice the next few weeks, but to play Harvey Elliott.
And he loves that UEFA Cup, the Europa League.
He's got a great record in it.
And they do, his teams do tend to go far in it. So if you're having a good run in that, as well as hopefully trying to challenge for the league for them, then they're going to need all the players that they've got.
One more, James. Curtis Jones. I mean, there were some links with a move to Inter Milan. Was that just rumours, or was there anything in that? And were Liverpool open to letting him go this January? Surely not.
No. Liverpool were never seriously considered letting him go. There was an inquiry from Inter Milan. I think when you've got a player like Curtis Jones who has only got less than 18 months left in his contract now, I think you're bound to have clubs around Europe keeping a very close eye on developments there. So the Inter asked the question, but it wasn't. No, it was a complete non-starter for Liverpool. I mean, I think the report I saw said on loan for the rest of the season with an option to buy for 40 million euros. It's just It was one of those things.
We're not in a position to be loaning players out, are we, at this stage of the season? It'd be ridiculous.
On that note, though, James, just being a bit nosy, would that obviously then point towards Curtis Jones being given a new contract in the summer, or does it not always read well? Is there obviously interest from both sides, the club and the player, to stay? Yeah,
I think what it does show is that Curtis Jones's future is a little bit up in the air at the moment, because clearly when you're inside your last 18 months like that, there'll be discussions going on with his representatives. Liverpool won't want a repeat of what happened with Trent Alexander-Arnold, where you lose a really gifted homegrown talent for nothing. Well, see, they got a small fee for Trent in the end, but nowhere near what his actual market value was. So I think there'll be discussions for the summer. I can understand why Curtis Jones would be frustrated because I know it means so much to him to play for Liverpool, and every time he doesn't make a starting lineup, it hurts him.
And that's the thing, James. Like for me, again, sorry to interrupt you, but as a fan, I want a Scouser in the team, all the way through, right the way through from Carragher, Fowler, all the way through to now. Ideally, we would look. I've seen the stuff from Newcastle, eight English players, and Liverpool didn't have any yet. No problem. We won anyway. It's fine. It doesn't bother me that. But Liverpool as a club, in my opinion, I think we need a Scouser in there, and we're lucky that we've had obviously two recently, and now.
I agree with you. I think there's something special about having that bond between the cop and seeing a local boy who's come through the ranks, and you know what it means to him. Being out there, and that's what when I speak to Alex Inglethorpe at the academy at Liverpool, that's why they get out of bed every day, because they're desperate to bring through local lads and to prove they're good enough of not just becoming squad players at Liverpool but becoming mainstays. And Curtis Jones is very, very gifted. I think he's been a bit unfortunate not to play more at times, but and I can understand. You think about his frustration, but you look at it's a World Cup coming up, and he was involved in the England setup. Now he's been left out a few squads by Tuchel, and he's probably thinking, well, does that mean my World Cup dream's not going to be there? Because at the minute he's not getting in, ahead of Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Wirtz are obviously the four players ahead of him. So I think it was never a goer for him to go anywhere in January, but I think come the summer there'll be some big discussions going on, because by then he'll only have a year left, and you'd have thought, he'll either have to
leave or sign a new deal, really,
sign a new deal. I imagine if he's had the reassurances that he's viewed as he's going to get the kind of game time he wants, and if he's not going to get the game time he wants, then and he wants to pursue a new challenge, then that will probably obviously be dependent on what kind of offers are on the table.
Yeah, let's hope he signs that new contract, because, as you said, Scouser in the team, top player, underrated player, and he's got a lot to offer. I think I've, boys, dotted the I's, crossed the T's there when it comes to transfers. Nothing obvious I've missed, is it?
Don't think so.
Also, I mean, I hope you said...
You're trying to catch James out there, wasn't you?
Me? No, I'm laughing at you saying I don't want to be nosy by asking him a question about Liverpool. I must be the nosiest person in the world then, just firing off questions for 15 minutes. Let's go back to Saturday night. I think for me, one of our best performances this season in the Premier League. Liverpool 4, Newcastle 1. Maybe the first half an hour or so wasn't good. Newcastle taking the lead, but Ekitike scored 2 before half time. Wirtz scored midway through the second half, and then a very, very popular goal scorer, Ibou Konate, who's had to deal with a lot of stuff off the pitch over the last couple of days, scored late. So Liverpool 4, Newcastle 1, still 6th in the table, a point behind Chelsea, 2 behind United, 3 behind Brentford and Sunderland, who are both 3 points behind us. But was that the night, boys, that maybe a little bit of the Liverpool swagger came back? It felt like we had weeks of kind of ponderous and pragmatic football at Anfield, but it felt like, James, you were there Saturday night, that maybe the shackles came off a little bit, the Liverpool of old came back?
Yeah, certainly for the last hour of that game. I thought the first half hour wasn't great, and it was the fear sat there watching it was, is this going to be the game that Newcastle want it to be? Because it was so stop-start, loads of set pieces, Liverpool giving away some needless corners and free kicks, and we know how threatening Newcastle can be. And then, as has happened so many times this season, the opposition scored their first proper, attempt on target through Anthony Gordon. But the biggest thing for me, which we haven't seen enough this season, was the response, because too often when Liverpool have gone behind, they've almost looked a bit sorry for themselves. This time they rolled their sleeves up, they fought, and the atmosphere, I've got to say, that massively helped them, because there's been times this season, I'm sure Paul's felt it as well, when you can sense the anxiety and nervousness in the stands, and that transmits to the players. But yeah, that was Anfield at its kind of belligerent best on Saturday night, inspiring those in red. It was huge, the fact they got back on level terms so soon after Gordon's opener. Ekitike was just absolutely sensational. That quick fire double just completely transformed the mood, and then again really satisfying to see Liverpool go for the jugular in the second half. They were clinical, with with Wirtz effectively killing the game off, and then just very, very fitting after what he's been through recently that Konate had the final word.
You've mentioned it a few times this season, haven't you, Paul? You've obviously got a season ticket at Anfield. You go to all the games. That there's been too many games where the atmosphere's felt a little bit edgy at times. The fans getting on the players' backs maybe too often for your liking, anyway.
Yeah, but I'm not like I understand it totally. So I'm not technically having a go at fans. I am on myself. I've left the ground more often than not this year, frustrated. And as James has just said, then it was different on the weekend. And I think I am a jinx because I was in New York. I was watching on my phone in Madison Square Garden with the fighting that night, obviously, and I'm watching thinking another one I didn't go and we've won, so I might sit one out next week and I'll have your
season ticket if you want. Get a nice meal with it, don't I? Glass of champagne.
Don't be blowing me up to people. I'll be getting all kinds of prawn sandwich skits now. No, it was one of them where you can sense it. I'm watching it on the phone with the AirPods in and I'm listening. I've got the volume up on. You can sense the atmosphere. You can sense the getting behind them. You can hear the songs. You can hear, like, all too often this season it's just been a bit flat. I think that's probably the best word to use, flat. Not really sort of vicious and turning on the players as such, just flat, just a flat atmosphere. But that sounded great.
I think it's one of those poor. It's like whether you're slot in, you're slot out, no matter what you think of the football, there is still so much to play for this season. I sometimes think that because we had that 9 defeats and 12, then we had that unbeaten run which had a lot of draws, it's felt like doom and gloom, and almost we're going in the second half of the season with our season over. Yeah, sure, we can't win the Premier League this season. We're still in 2 cup competitions. There's so much to play for this season.
I honestly, the first season when Slot came in, I would have bit your hands off for fourth. I'd have just took Champions League football and qualification for that to then rebuild. I think this is probably the rebuild season, and we were very lucky last season in the sense that Slot managed to wring and squeeze every last bit of energy and enthusiasm and passion out of that team, which was technically Klopp's team, but they didn't play that way for Klopp. They played that way for Slot, and they won the league. We're being a little bit spoilt, I think, in the sense that we've won the league, and we need to remember that we've just won the Premier League. This season is probably the transitional period, so I would be happy with fourth at the moment, and it's not what you really should be aiming for after you win a title. But after the injuries, after the start we've had, the way it's been going, the tragedy with Jota and everything else, I would be happy with fourth now. But before Newcastle, there was signs that possibly wasn't going to happen. So I'm glad that it's sort of steadied the ship, and let's hope that this momentum now stays.
Can you throw the Champions League as well for us?
I'd love the Champions League, obviously, and I would obviously take any cup. We haven't won the FA Cup for a while, have we? A few years now, since I think it was Costa scored the penalty in the final. So I think it's one to try and go for and try and really aim for the cups as well and make a point of it. But if we do get to the cup final of the Champions League, I am not going.
Yeah, James, he's got a bad record, Paul. The ones he goes to, we lose, and the ones he doesn't go to, we win, right?
I promise you I won't go.
Yeah.
No Budapest.
Yeah, I would have a good maybe take Inside Liverpool to Budapest, right?
There you go.
There we go. We got that sorted for next summer. Who wants to wax lyrical first about Hugo Ekitike? Go on, James. I'll go to you first. I enjoyed your tweet on Saturday night. Hugo Ekitike's transformed the mood at Anfield with his match-winning heroics. What a signing he's been. The leading light of Arne Slot's front line. No Liverpool centre forward since Fernando Torres has made such an impact in his debut season at Anfield.
Yeah, I just think he's been an absolute revelation. And when you think back to last summer, there was this expectation when Liverpool signed Isak that it was like, well, Ekitike is going to be the sidekick, really. And he's well and truly blown that one out of the water. And he's embraced the responsibility as well, because of course since Isak broke his leg in early December, there's been so much pressure on him to deliver, yet he relishes it. And I just think he's got everything you want in a centre forward: pace, power. He's combative. His work ethic is absolutely spot on, and
looks a real character as well. James, is that fair to say?
Yeah, they love it. He's so popular in the dressing room. He's funny. I think it's helped him off the pitch, the fact that he's had this bond with Konate, obviously from their time together with France, and him and Wirtz as well have become good pals since they linked up in the summer, and you can see that understanding growing on and off the pitch. And that second goal was, it was pure Torres, wasn't it? Torres against Chelsea on his home debut back in 2007. It was almost the same patch of grass in terms of bursting past the defender on the outside and the unbelievable finish into the far corner. And I think, was that 15 goals he's got his name now. There's no reason why he couldn't go on and get 25 this season. And Liverpool haven't. It feels like it's been a long time since Liverpool had a centre forward, quite like him. Probably, obviously Suarez, blossomed after a relatively slow start and had that unbelievable year in 13-14. But then, of course, for so much of the Klopp era, Firmino was such a key part, a cog in the machine, but he wasn't a massively prolific goal scorer. He was a false nine rather than a proper number 9. And then they try and go in a different direction with Darwin Núñez. He was too erratic and didn't deliver on a consistent basis. But yeah, Ekitike is the absolute real deal.
I was just going to say that what James said, and it sounds silly because Salah's put them numbers up every year, but he's a winger. And for Liverpool to have a striker, a number 9, a striker of that calibre, we haven't had someone who's putting 20-25 goals per season in that position,
number 9
for a while. So it's great news for me, but obviously Isak's sitting there as well.
Yeah,
like it's a frightening thought, and I hope that they can, pardon the pun, slot in or fit into the same team. But if they do, with Wirtz behind them or Wirtz somewhere else in that team as well, it's a frightening thought. I know we've tried at the start of the season, but they were all still sort of bedding in and gelling in, really.
Yeah. Just don't want to go back too much to the summer, but was the plan always to bring in 2 strikers, you think? Or do you think just the way things fell with Isak and Ekitike, they both kind of became options of Liverpool and they thought, we can't not take that up? Or do you always think Liverpool wanted 2 centre-forwards?
I think it became pretty clear early in pre-season that they'd be pursuing 2 centre-forwards, even from when the Ekitike kind of interest really kind of blossomed. It was always, the message was always, this doesn't change anything regarding wanting Isak. This isn't like an alternative to Isak. We want to pair them together because, of course, you'd lost Jota in tragic circumstances. Darwin Núñez had gone to Saudi Arabia. Luis Diaz was on the brink of going to Bayern Munich. So that front line needed a proper overhaul. But yeah, it's remarkable really what Ekitike is, especially when you think how it's been a malfunctioning team from the start of the season to have put up those kind of numbers already, and the COP absolutely adore him. That's the other thing that and you can we few of us reporters spoke to him after the game against Karabag in the Champions League in the week, and you can just see what it means to him to play for Liverpool. And we can all become a bit cynical, can't we, in modern football, but to see him enjoying himself and just the way he celebrates his goals as well. And I loved him giving a bit back to the Newcastle, reminding him what the score was as he passed them. I think fans love not just the quality, but when you've got a personality like that.
Exactly that.
I think them Newcastle fans will have been sick on the weekend watching him, thinking, "Look what we could have won."
Well, and also with Isak on the sitting behind the bench, thinking we could have had, certainly one of them. That
would have been a proper kick in the teeth.
Yeah. Did you feel that when you go to the game? Obviously, we want our centre forwards to put goals in the back of the net, and you could tell pretty much from the Community Shield game against Palace, the way he took the goal in that game. The Bournemouth first game of the season, that he's clinical in front of goal, he's composed, but he does feel like that sort of character. He's aggressive. He plays with a smile on his face, and that will endear him to the people that pay their money to go with Liverpool every week.
Absolutely, and I'm not trying to sound smart, but I said at the very start of the season and early on, he reminds me of Torres.
And that was before he got his head blonde.
It's just the long sleeves, the way he runs. He's got a similar sort of stature and build. Torres was a big lad. He's a lump. Ekitike.
I remember he mentioned that Chelsea game.
Big lad.
That Chelsea game that Torres scored that great goal. That was his home debut, wasn't it? I remember that game. Torres going toe-to-toe with John Terry and giving it back to John Terry on his home debut. I remember thinking, all right, he can play, but he's also got something about him.
Yeah, and he obviously used to terrorise Vidic, didn't he? At United. And
used to get sent off every game,
unbelievable player, one of the best defenders the league had seen, according to United fans and a lot of other pundits and people who know the football and all the stuff. And Torres used to absolutely have him running rings around him every game.
Wasn't it, as well?
He'd be terrible. But that's what, again, I think... There's no harm in that, and the way the game's gone this season, set pieces, long throws, a lot more physicality. We need someone like that anyway, or players like that, big lad. I was buzzing with Gravenberg last season. He was everywhere, and for me, he was integral. Again, in my limited opinion on football, I was buzzing watching him every week. He was running the show every week, but he was very, very physical. We've got Canate at the back, Van Dijk at the back. When everyone's fit and physical and on it, we've got a chance. But Ekitike certainly, in my opinion, fits that mould. He's a lump.
And one of the comparisons with obviously Torres had Gerrard, didn't he, playing behind him? They had that great understanding. And now obviously seeing Ekitike and Wirtz, who linked up again, didn't they, on the weekend? And I think, James, you touched on it when you joined us last week. But I mean, Florian Wirtz is just flourishing now, isn't he? Where it feels like the ceiling with him is so high, and it's so great that he's got that link up with Ekitike.
Yeah, I think Wirtz is making a few people look silly, aren't they? Who kind of wrote him off earlier on in the season and questioned the wisdom of that investment. And I thought some of the critiques of him earlier in the campaign were massively unfair. Completely, not factoring in the fact he was a 22-year-old lad living away from Germany for the first time, joining a team that wasn't performing particularly well. Because I think anyone who's watched Liverpool regularly, even in those opening months of the season, the quality was undeniable. There were so many games when things just didn't quite come off for him, where he put goals on a plate for teammates and they squandered the chances, and people then forget the quality of the pass that led to it. But now things are really starting to click for him. I think Liverpool have had him on a pretty intensive strength and conditioning program to try and get him up to speed with the physicality and intensity of the Premier League, because I think he's been very honest that he found that a real culture shock initially. And what is it now? 6 goals, 3 assists in his last 11 games.
I like that though, James. Do you? The fact that he was openly admitting that, look, it's a tough league and it's a lot more sort of physical and competitive.
Yeah. And I think especially this season, isn't it? Because of all the seasons to have joined the Premier League, he's kind of come at a time when a lot, teams have become a lot more attritional, and there's a lot more about set pieces, and games are a lot more stop-start. And you look at kind of, he's a creative force, isn't he? That he's such a different type of player to the way the Premier League has gone this season.
I love watching him, James. I think he's exceptional. And my argument was, my limited knowledge on football. I'm not an expert on football by any stretch of the imagination, but
you are to me.
All them player. Analysts, all them transfer analysts, all them people that have studied this player inside out before they risk the club's hard-earned money on, they won't be wrong. Like I think that nowadays, especially with the data, the technology and the knowledge that we have on anything in life now, them statisticians, they will not waste a penny on something like that. I think it's a foolproof gamble.
Especially Michael Edwards, ever since he's been at the club. I mean, there haven't been too many big misses, has there, in terms of big money players coming in and not succeeding, right, James?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the groundwork that goes into it. And I mean, I remember when I first had conversations with people, I think it was the back end of last season about Wirtz when the rumours started, and it was it was kind of a bit of a cautious optimism initially, because it was like every club in Europe wants this guy. Man City were banging for him, Bayern Munich were banging for him, and of course Bayern, there's almost like this sense in Germany that that's almost a rite of passage, that Bayern just take the best players off their domestic rivals, and they were properly fuming Bayern, the fact that they missed out on him. That probably speaks volumes in itself. Did you think how many times would Bayern have studied him in his journey up through the Bundesliga, and just what he did for that first goal for Ekitike on Saturday night. When the ball drops at his feet on the edge of the box, what is there, probably 5 or 6 black and white shirts in front of him. The quick feet and the close control and then the vision to pick Ekitike out of the near post. That's what Liverpool have bought, that ability to make something out of nothing.
And what I love about him as well is I'm not sort of being proven wrong by the belief that we'll just have faith in them. They won't. He will succeed. That type of money and that type of investment from a club like ours, with a team behind the club like ours, they wouldn't do that. And I've never seen anything of him since he's been at the club that will throw me off that or make me doubt that. I've got full confidence in it. I love watching him. I think he's unbelievable. Every pass is weighted perfectly. He's just, I think he's on it. And I saw you, James, didn't I, at the Emirates at the Arsenal game, And when I was walking out just after I'd left James, I met someone a little bit less famous and asked them for the picture, and it was Florian Wirtz.
And why didn't you ask James for a picture?
I've got a few with James. Honestly, I just seen him out. He was standing outside talking to a few people. I said, "Excuse me," I said, "Like, do you mind if we get a picture, please?" Me and my brother Liam, and we got a picture of him, but he looked terrified when I asked him for it. I had my arm
he knows who you are. That's why.
I had my arm around him. I said, "Mate, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I think you're unbelievable. Like, good luck, thank you, lovely to meet you." Shook his hand, but he looked.
He speaks English.
He looked terrified. I think he thought I was an Arsenal fan because we were in the near where the Arsenal lot were. But he spoke English. He spoke fine. But he was a lot taller than I expected as well. Like, I'm 5'11". He was a bit taller than me because he looked small on the pitch. But that just goes to show you the size of some of these players. Like Van Dijk, 6'4", I think, isn't he? Like, the unbelievable. Some of the athletes, some of these players.
Yeah, good stuff. So Wirtz going well, Ekitike going well. Just one more on the game before we speak about City. Got to mention Ibu Konate, don't we? Because we know off the pitch he suffered a tragic loss and he missed the last couple of games. But there's some injuries in defence. He came back. I thought he played really, really well. I thought it was the Konate of old. He was big, he was strong, he was physical, won absolutely everything in the air. And then he got his goal, didn't he, towards the end? He looked very emotional, mobbed by his teammates. So obviously gutted for Konate in the loss that he suffered with his dad passing away. But Paul, he came back, he put in the performance, and he got that goal, he got that moment. And fair play to Konate there as well, because we needed him, and he was outstanding, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And again, I've been one of the people to sort of criticise him this season for his form and the bad games that he's had, purely and simply because there's talk of Real Madrid or other people sort of turning his head. But after what's happened, after what's gone on in his personal life, like we forget that these players are human, and there's a lot at stake for them, and they're only young lads as well, especially compared to me anyway. But I was buzzing for him, and I hope that is a springboard for him now. Fingers crossed.
Consistency now, that
he can, because he is a player, and he's a very, very good player. He just hasn't been at the race as much this year, but if this is the springboard, then great.
So we play Saturday night, and we got 8 days off until our next game. I mean, James, do you get a little bit of time off then in the weekend? There's probably not many times, is there, that you'll go through a whole week without a press conference or anything like that? Do you get to take the other half away or something like that, or is it still just work? None of that.
No, it's a busy one actually. Obviously, with the window shutting on Monday night, and having to write about Jeremy Jacquet, and then there's a few other things to chase up, and obviously Harvey Elliott, as we touched on earlier, is a big talk point. What's going to happen with him, for the rest of the season and beyond that. Curtis Jones's situation that we touched on, and then of course the build-up starts. The massive game against Manchester City on Sunday, because I think everyone knows, because of what's happened this season, there'll be no bold talk of having turned the corner quite yet. You want to see Liverpool deliver on a consistent basis.
I mean, that game, Paul, at Anfield, for pretty much the last 4 or 5 years, has been the kind of the big game going for the title. Probably, I think one of the best fixtures we've had. Pep v Guardiola. Pep v Guardiola. Do that again. Pep v Klopp. Some cracking games of football. Be interesting to see what it's like this Sunday, with obviously City going for the title, us going for top 4, but should be great atmosphere nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely, and I hope it is. It's just a strange situation, because like I'm in a different boat to a lot of my mates and a lot of other people who support Liverpool, and says that I'd probably rather see City win the league than Arsenal. Really? Just because of the fan base, and I've got a lot of mates. I've got a lot of mates based at this station who are Arsenal fans. And you don't want to see even Manchester to win the league, do you? No, but City are okay compared to United, aren't they?
And they've won so many almost.
And they've won that many. It's like, just leave Arsenal on that drought again with a bit of luck, and keep that mantra that we've got going for them at the minute as the bridesmaids. But they are some team at the moment, aren't they? And the depth that they've got coming off the bench, and it's going to be hard. I keep winding me mates up from Arsenal saying, surely you can't blow from here, but
they won't blow.
The way it's been going, you never know. But I think everything sort of fell right for them this season, and it'll be a poor season that they'll win the league, and a poor low point that they'll probably win the league. But if they win it, they win it.
I mean, City have won 1 in 6 league games, which is just ridiculous form, isn't it? When you're trying to chase down the team. But the game on Sunday, the City game, I was doing a watch along on TalkSport Goals and TalkSport's YouTube channel on your smart TVs, and that first half they absolutely dominated Spurs. And the City team of 2 or 3 years ago would have been 4 or 5 up at half time, and that game would have been done. And they just don't seem to be able to see teams off and properly dominate and control games to 90 minutes like they used to. So what sort of challenge, James, are you expecting on Sunday from Man City?
As you just touched on then I think it's tricky to know what to expect, because I was certainly in the camp that off the back of them signing Semenyo and Gay, I thought we'd see history repeat itself and City go on one of those City-like runs in the second half of the season and probably reel Arsenal in as the stakes get higher. But yeah, now I'm having to reassess, because I sat and watched that game against Tottenham on the weekend, and they look so vulnerable second half, and they've got players. It just feels like they're in a bit of transition to me in terms of new players coming in. Some players at the back end of their career. You look at someone like Rodri, who clearly is no longer the force that he was for so long. And also, I don't think it helps them all this noise about Guardiola's future. It's almost a daily occurrence now, isn't it? Another story about things pointing to the fact that he will be going at the end of the season.
It can't last forever, though, James, can it? We saw this with Klopp, and from what you gather with Klopp, is he was just tired and just needed a good, imagine what Guardiola's going through. And listen, and again, I know obviously it's a great job to have, but it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, because I think everyone would say, wouldn't they? Probably those matchups between Klopp and Guardiola were
legendary.
Some of the greatest games we've ever been.
Probably added years to both of them.
Yeah, exactly. And the way I think because they're both, what made them both so special as managers, they're so invested, aren't they? Yeah. They're so intense. That obsession with it. And as you said, Paul, that's bound to take a toll. It took a huge toll on Klopp. I think you can see it takes a toll on Guardiola when you look at some of his dealings with the media. So, from Liverpool's perspective, they have to try and prey on that vulnerability. And Anfield has not been a happy hunting ground for Guardiola. I think the only time he's won there with City was behind closed doors during the pandemic. And I think, the fact is it's the later kickoff on Sunday. I think that should help Liverpool as well, because the atmosphere always feels better for the later the game is. Yeah. And the place will be bouncing, and you just hope that, similarly to the Newcastle game, you want to see the players feed off that, because I couldn't really understand some of the negativity among Liverpool fans at the weekend off the back of United and Chelsea scoring late winners, because for a start, there's 14 games to go. It's far too soon to be worrying about how some of your rivals for those Champions League spots are doing. And also, when you look at Villa and the stumble they're having, Liverpool are only 7 points behind Villa. There's no reason why they couldn't reel them in.
We finished above Chelsea United this season. I know United are in decent form under Michael Carrick, but I think with the quality we've got, we can just, starting to maybe see glimpses of us getting back to our best. We've got so much more quality than those two teams. I was literally just going to say, it doesn't matter what your rivals are doing if you're not winning. You just concentrate on your own games and win. Exactly. That's all you can do, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. And that's why Sunday is massive, isn't it? Because if you beat City, then what a platform that is to them really push on. So ahead of Liverpool versus Man City, it's time for our bet builder with BetMGM. Remember, you can download the app or head to betmgm.co.uk. So Paul, me and you are going to put together a little bet builder. I'm obviously going to go for a Liverpool victory. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Do you want to throw something else in there? I will go for both teams to score. Yeah, I like that. I don't think we keep a clean sheet in there. So we've got Liverpool to win, both teams to score. I think it's going to be end-to-end, a pretty open game. So I think lots of shots on target. I might throw in over 6.5 saves there in our bet builders. There we go. We've got Liverpool to win, both teams to score, and over 6.5 saves. So I've gone for 7 shots on target at least. Good stuff. There we go. Paul, you're going to be there on Sunday in Anfield. You must admit, I know you're in America. You're giving it the big one with your lads, looking after your boxers, but you're back where you're back in your proper home, aren't you, on Sunday afternoon? Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to get in there for them prawn sandwiches. Unbelievable. What's the you like the food you get looked after in the press box, Liverpool, James? Yeah, it's not as posh as the stuff that Paul gets. I might get a bit of chili con carne if we're lucky. Oh, chili con carne on a Sunday afternoon, you can't beat that. On the in the game on Saturday night, the mix zone, is it always Verge or Andy Robertson that stops, or do sometimes some of the other boys stop, obviously depending on how they get on, or is it pretty much just grab whoever you can get? Certainly for home matches, the players a few years ago realised there was another way out. So it used to be the case that every kind of member of the squad would walk past, and then it was down to you would then ask a player if he would give you a few minutes, and then
it was up to him whether to say yes or no. But yeah, that's changed a bit since then, because there is the word unfortunately must have got round that there was another way to get to the players' lounge. So Virgil, to his credit,
he's great, isn't he?
Through every single game, he sees it as a part of his responsibilities as captain. Win, lose or draw, always fronts up. And then sometimes others do walk through. Like last weekend, Dominic Szoboszlai did. I think he started doing that a bit more often with the mix zone as well.
James, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great having you on as always, mate.
Cheers, guys.
All the best, James.
And Paul, as always, thank you very much for you'll be back with us next week, won't you? And Jermaine Pennant will be back as well. This has been the latest episode of Inside Liverpool on TalkSport's YouTube channel and on your smart TVs. This show is sponsored by BetMGM. You can download the app or visit betmgm.co.uk, gambleaware.org, and of course, please gamble responsibly.